Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. And as usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up a telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything. Politics, religion, socioeconomic issues, issues trending. The most important is that you can introduce your own subject matter. We take calls. We stop in the middle of a sentence and take calls. What we have to say is not very important. What you have to say is important. We express our opinions on any issue that we are comfortable with. Opinions are not cast in stone. So if we have more information or better information, we change in our opinion. Today, Catholics are celebrating the Solemnity of Saint Joseph, spouse of the Virgin Mary. Saint Joseph, it was said, was a widow, was married to Salome. She died. And then he got betrothed to Mary. Saint Joseph is the patron saint of workers. He's supposed to be a good example for men because it is said that he was just. And he is venerated in the Catholic Church. He was a carpenter doing manual work and taking care of his family. And thus, in the church, he is considered as the patron saint of workers. Maybe a very good reminder for us in today's society, workers, family, children. And this perhaps is the most important objective of mine. And that's one of the reasons I come on radio a couple of years ago. Change is difficult. And after recognizing that the productivity in school was unacceptably low, and in my interaction with some of my colleagues and friends and teachers and roamers, was not making any headway. In fact, I believe I was losing friends fast. People seem not too concerned that 70% of the children in school is not doing well. So today, as the Catholics celebrate the Solemnity of Saint Joseph, spouse of the Virgin Mary, patron saint of workers, was described as a just man. He did hard manual work to take care of his family. I think it's a good time for us to speak about some of the issues that exist in now. One parliamentary representative described me as she was advising some of her supporters, pay no heed of me because I get stuck on one tune. And she's correct. Only one tune. But I say to people, we mustn't just believe radio personalities or journalists or what you hear on the radio. Don't just accept it, lob, stock, and barrel. Do a little research. So I'm challenging you today to do a little research. Start in your own community. Look around your community and see the individuals in your community that is unemployed. Those that are struggling for a job. Those that are involved in predial larceny. And what I might call stupid crimes. Hooliganism, bad behavior, using obscenities unnecessarily. Look at the number of people involved in that and try to assess what standard of education they have. And I'm willing to bet you that the vast majority of them did not leave school with a basic minimum education. If somebody is struggling for a job in your village or community, barring the fact that they might be physically challenged, it is because they did not leave school with the basic education. Look around and see the young people that are on drugs, excessive cocaine, vagrancy, and I'm willing to challenge you that they did not get a good basic education. So it seems there is a direct relationship between the education that you get and the fact that you are unemployed. If you pry a little further, even if you have not visited the prison or the mental institute, the majority of young people that are there did not have a good education. They did not leave school with the basic minimum education in the mental institute. In the prisons is the same thing. The majority of inmates in the prison did not have a good education. So the answer, I believe, to alleviate and help a lot of the challenges we have is a better education. You cannot have a child. You should not. You ought not to have a child go to school for 13 and a half years. And when that child leaves school, one language we speak in Grenada, one. And over 70% of the children cannot pass English language. Over 70% of the children cannot pass mathematics. Something is fundamentally wrong with our systems. The statistics would tell you in the Caribbean that 60% of the people looking for jobs do not have the education or the skill set necessary for the job. So we must face the truth. We must face facts. If what I'm saying here today is not the truth, then you could challenge me. And I don't want you to accept what I'm saying readily. Do a little research. The research you do may not be, you may not be able to publish it. It is not for thesis or paper, but it will help you have the courage of your own conviction so you could speak with some level of authority. Start in your community. If your child exits school in Grenada without the necessary basic education or skill set, they are more likely to be struggling for a job. They are more likely to be less competitive on the job market. They are more likely to end up in the mental institute. They're more likely to find guilty in the courthouse because sometimes they don't have the money to provide a level of legal representation. The children who do not have the basic education, they depend on the system more. And this ought to be the turning point in Grenada, because we have a government now with a philosophy, a strategy, a political ideology that is hostile towards people in the lower income group. It is difficult for the government to deny that. When you go back in the history and see what they does every time they come in power, it is difficult for them to deny that they are hostile towards people in the lower income group. I don't know why. Look at the level of violence in Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia. And based upon what I see going on now, the level of violence and social decadence in Grenada will increase. Will increase unless we prepare to recognize what are the contributing factors. Grenada was spending more money on social safety net than any other country in the Caribbean. And that the fact that we had more landowners than any other country in the Caribbean, I believe contributed significantly to our low crime rate. But that is changing. This government come into power long enough for a child to be conceived and born. And maybe over 1,500 persons has lost their job. In addition to that, the government policies had negative consequences on the confidence of the financial institution and people who do not have permanent jobs. The government also make it easier for big companies or businesses to ignore tradition, precedent, and history and fire workers. Because the government have gotten rid of workers who work 5, 10, 15, 17, and as much as 19 years with government. The government has put them on the job line. So the private sector normally take the cue from government. And if the trade union was not able to stop government from doing it, no one will stop the private sector. So it's easier now for people to lose their job in the private sector as a result of the government's action. I think this is a good time to talk about it. This today, Catholics are celebrating the Solemnity of St. Joseph, spouse of the Virgin Mary. He is considered as a just man and is the patron saint of workers. If we are going to develop a small country like ours, Grenada, and we decide to take actions that is hostile against people in the lower income group, something definitely have to be wrong with us. Definitely. Over the weekend, I was in conversation with about 3-4 young men, very strong supporters of the National Democratic Congress. And I make it my duty to engage them in discussion because I have difficulty understanding the NDC philosophy and the hostile attitude towards people in the lower income group. One of them was working for about $6,000 a month. He was working in the construction industry. And he has been employed for over a year and 6 months now, permanently. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller, welcome.
Oh, this is Livingston.
Yeah.
I want you to take my number and call me. 536-8704.
Okay.
All right? I'm waiting on that caller. Want to talk to you.
Yeah. And the young man was very, very supportive of the NDC policy. He said these people they fired are not productive. Fire them. He thought the money was a waste of time. And he echoed some of the sentiments of the hardline NDC members. Let her go and pound stone. So I asked him, I have enough knowledge on him, so I asked him, are you the only breadwinner or the only person generating income in your family? Yes, he said. He has his spouse, 3 children, 2 from another relationship, and his sick mother in the house. He has a car. I said, what would happen to you if you get a stroke? Who else in your family will bring in income? And he got quiet like a lamb. Can't answer. Because while he is doing well now, he is the only income generator in his family. And I asked the question because a lot of the members of the National Democratic Congress that is comfortable and rejoicing as people go on the breadline, I'm asking you the same question. What would be your financial situation if you lose your source of income? Are you wealthy enough to have investments in other areas? Do you have enough land and property to continue bringing in money? Or are you the only source of income in your family? Because there's a number of people, and because I live in the community, I have a good idea about the economic situation that seems to be rejoicing, but they are the only source of income. When people lose the source of income, and you have a job market that is extremely sluggish, you're practically emasculating the effectiveness of that individual and the family. They have to support their children. What would they do? The temptation for getting involved in unsavory practices or unorthodox economic income generators or crime is greater. There's a direct relationship between high unemployment and crime in the Caribbean. And that is why governments in particular look at the social safety net program. In the last structural adjustment program in Grenada, we must never forget that. The International Monetary Fund just came from Greece. And they had a structural adjustment program there that was very unpopular. But in the Grenada structural adjustment program, no one lost their job. Nobody lost their job. They did not cut social spending. In fact, they increased social spending. Workers in Barbados was alluding to the Grenada experiment and advising the government to take a cue from it. We have made sacrifice in the structural adjustment program. But today in Grenada, the people in the lower income group are being punished for the sacrifice everybody made. We cannot ignore the fact that the government never gave a justification, reason, or explanation for the hostile attitude towards the marginalized. Remember, they did not meet a treasury empty. It is the first time in the history of Grenada a government took office and they themselves make the public know that the treasury was not empty. We coined the term that the treasury was pregnant. Then what is the justification? If that is so, what is the justification for economically disadvantaging the elderly, the physically challenged, disadvantaged children, and workers in Grenada? What is the explanation? The minister and parliamentary representative said, I was stuck on one tune. Yes, it's a big tune. Because if our children leave school and they don't have the ability to be competitive on the job market, and then you have a government that is hostile towards them, what do you expect? What in God's name do you expect? The government has not given justifiable reasons for the action. It is not a question that the government don't have money, because the lifestyle of the government has been one of extravagance. The government has not been conservative in the traveling. I would say the traveling as when children, Christmas time. Every day you hear a minister on a plane. They have not been conservative. Yet, the elderly in this country, they remove $150 from them. The minister said that I'm on one tune. Well, that's a big tune. It shows a lack of compassion. It shows the inability to empathize. What is the justification? I ask this question and I will continue. Give us some economic justification. Why is it the government feel that they should deny the elderly in our place, the physically challenged? The government is firing workers without justifiable reason. And some of you political activists, those that we are able to corner, because most of them are running away from the discussion on the ground. Just as the government is hiding from the media, so some of the political activists is running away from the ground. Because they can't answer. Some of them is baffled. So they are saying the people unproductive, fire them. And if they check, if they count stone in the river, let them count stone. What do you expect would happen in the community when a political party decides to institutionalize political victimization and want to effect restorative justice? What you think would be the result? You know, it's difficult. Some of the people you find is rural women, marginalized women, women 45 years, 39, 50. Among the caregivers, I was told that when you reach 60, you have to go. Well, the girl says she's 59 now, so she knows she had to go. The parliamentary representative had discussion with the minister and begged her to re-employ one of the group of caregivers. The same minister that saying one tune, she agreed, except the coordinator. So they employ everybody else in the group except the coordinator. And you know, they told the coordinator to inform the others to come back except her. Sometimes I wonder how heartless these actions could be. I spoke to the coordinator. She said, well, I'm in a better position than them because I have my husband and my husband working and he tell me not to bother. But the information that I'm getting now, it seems that the Minister of Social Affairs, although she gave the parliamentary representative her word, she is firing them one by one. The Minister of Social Affairs, I understand, is firing the workers one by one. Now, what's going on in our country? How this could be justified? We have about 10 people that was involved in source-up management. They mainly use chemical and pruning trees for source-up. All of them was fired. About 8 or 10 of them was fired. No justification, no explanation, no reasons. The government has not re-employed people. So you send the workers home, but maybe they don't get enough yellow people to employ. So they prefer not to employ them. On the same ground, the Ministry of Agriculture, led by Persuader, Adrian Thomas, refused to have a meeting with the exporters of salsa. Now, the only thing I could left to say and ask why the government is sabotaging the sauce-up industry. You see, I'm tongue. So while these things might sound far-fetched, in the past, the Grenada NDC government cut down Belvedere nutmeg and plant banana. They took a loan in the bank. No extension officer in agriculture could have understand the logic. Everybody asking why they're doing that. Who advised them to do that? The individual that was targeted to lead that project, he asked them if they're mad, so they put somebody else. They cut down Belvedere nutmeg and plant banana. Well, that project was doomed to fail long before it started. Because they was planting banana in a belt that will contribute to disease. And the first place nutmeg was planted in Grenada was in Belvedere. So historically, people criticize the project on historical grounds. But the National Democratic Congress did it. And when you believe they couldn't do worse, they did worse. They plow up by the bayside in River and Twine, cut down the trees, and say they're planting organic banana. Again, it baffled the mind of all the extension officers in agriculture. I do not know of one extension officer that agreed with that project. They say in a worst case scenario, if you intend to do that, you should introduce cattle to get organic manure 2 years before. They pay heed not to anyone, and they did it. So I know the NDC has the potential to sabotage the source of industry. And I appeal to the journalists that could reach the Minister of Agriculture to ask him, why is he sabotaging the source of industry? Or to give some rationale, some justification, some explanation. Why the group of young men that was involved in spraying, that was involved in management, pest management in the source of industry, why did they fire them? I don't know if the LD50 in the body was too high, but please ask. You see, we cannot plead the fifth in Grenada, you know. We're not living in the 70s. In the 70s, we did not have much comparability, much examples. We had Eric Gary, and he set the template, and then we criticize him. But today, we have a number of things we can go back to and see the mistakes we make. So all of us in Grenada have to be held accountable and responsible for the strange acts of the government today. It doesn't make sense. I ask and I seek some explanation, some justification and rationale for these acts that is being done by the government. Sometimes when you take on individuals on social media, they're unable to defend the government malpractices, the government negative policies. So they attack you personally. I don't retaliate to personal attacks and family attacks. They like to attack your whole family because 90% of the people in Grenada is my family. So even the people who are attacking your family is your family too. What I do, I encourage them to discontinue that practice and come up with substance and challenge what I say if it is not the truth. You see, the government, why would a government be sabotaging an agriculture crop that brings in over 10 million US in the country? You might say that is impossible. But when you go back to the NDC track record of cutting down Belvedere nutmeg and planting banana, you have to know that they have the potential to sabotage that which is good. I have not heard them give any justification for violently removing $150 from the elderly. And I say violently removing, because in December, they told the people they were getting the money. And they remove it without informing them. They had them shedding tears. Some of them, a few of them, actually shed tears the day they went and collected. But it's not the first time they did that to them. They did that in 2008. At that time, the sun was very hot that day when they gathered them. If you remember the National Democratic Congress in 2008, the treatment of the people who was involved in the Imani program. I don't play tapes, so I don't have it. But I'm certain if you seek around, you will find it. They gathered these Imani people, and they told them, you are my children. You would not be fired. Words to the effect. They repeated many times for it to sink in. And then the NDC fired the Imani. And that is what I call psychological violence. They set them up. And then they fired them. Look what happened in Paradise Estate. Granby Estate. I always say Paradise. Granby Estate. The minister and the permanent secretary visited the estate. And this is based upon information I get from workers who were there. I was not present. They complimented the workers. The workers was all happy because it was complimented by the permanent secretary and the minister for the productivity. The estate was identified as a potential estate for growing weed. They psych up the people. A father told me he was so happy when he come out there because he said they might increase the pay because they're going to plant weed on the estate. Then the government fired 30 of them. I call that an act of violence. Psychological war. You set up the person. You tell them you're going to increase the pay. You tell them you're going to increase the pay to $650. You told them the estate going to be identified for weed. You complimented them on the productivity. And then you fire them. If my brother Willie could have listened to the... Yes, caller, welcome.
Pierre?
Yes, caller, welcome.
You said that they tell people they will increase the pay to $650. Mr. Pierre, you alone are hear that?
Caller, I didn't hear what you said.
On people, no?
Caller, what you say?
I never heard nobody say they're going to impress anybody pay to $650. You're a man. Stop that. You're a big man. You said that universally up there, you know, plant to plant the tissue banana, the NMP. They even get plant from away and they bring down to plant in universally up there. And it never come true. The NMP were trying to plant the banana up there. So pay supply on people now. Anyhow, you have a good day.
Thank you, caller. What I encourage this caller to do is to find out the information. You see, the National Democratic Congress has put out some propaganda, and some of its members consume the propaganda. So when I speak to you, I try to tell you what is the truth. But like Mr. Exeter said, the young man shake out the truth on him. Mr. Naiko said, don't let him live with the truth. Tie it back on him. This is why some of the programs are playing the tapes with excessive regularity for people to hear the voice of Dick Mitchell. When he said, we campaign on a policy of transformation, but it is not so much transformation, it is restorative justice. So, caller, you have to listen to the sayings of your party. You know, you have to listen. Yes, caller, welcome.
Afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, we caller.
This man can't understand at all. That truth real bothered him.
We have to continue helping him with the truth. Yeah. Some people want to walk away from the truth. And they have been doing that in Grenada a lot of years. In 1962, the NDC grandmother, they said, we're going to go unitary state. And one of the things they promised Grenada, you'll get same pay with Trinidad. A lot of people believe it. And we have to, on the media, we have to prepare to speak the truth a bit, you know. We're going to make mistakes. Because sometimes we get all excited and we are human beings. But we must correct ourselves. When you make a mistake, you must correct yourself and try to speak the truth. In 2008, caller, the government used an elderly person from St. Patrick's to advertise that they're going to get $450. How wrong, how unjust. They never give the $450. Instead of that, they fire some people from the program. And I've said before with regularity, 5 women from Paraclete was removed from the program. I call Paraclete because it's easy for them to do the research. One of the women that was removed, she was 100 years a couple of weeks ago. One of the individuals who run for the National Democratic Congress, I saw her in her presence on Facebook. That is how I know she was 100. I saw it on Facebook. The same NDC that removed her from the program. Another one had 14 children and one was blind. So when I speak, I want you to understand that. A young man tell me he can't believe Morris Bishop jailed all these people. 3,000 people. I say, okay, go and ask Mr. Tillman Thomas because he was in jail too. He must know. So, caller, you have to prepare to listen to the truth. The Prime Minister quoted, I think, the World Health Organization or who to talk about $600. He chastised the next government for not giving it. And then the Prime Minister removed $150 from the money. Now, what is it that the elderly has done the NDC? Why the physically challenged in this country? What wrong they did to the NDC? The minister said they're stuck on one tune. Well, it's the same tune. The fact that 70% of our children are leaving school without the minimum requirement and they become less competitive on the job market and are more likely to depend on government for assistance. And then you have the NDC coming and is hostile to this group. And I draw the parallel. It is your children from this group that are more likely to end up in prison, more likely to end up in jail because they would not starve. It's the same people that the Minister of Agriculture is calling lunatics and idiots. Although the police said predial larceny was on the decline and it was down to about 3%, the minister wanted them to go to jail till they finish pay. They must stay in jail. And the jail is overpopulated. And this is why I say it's a mentality that have to change. It's a philosophy that is embedded in the NDC And you have to have discussion with them to make them understand that this is counterproductive for the country. You're going to cause more violence. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller.
They're going to pay by fortnightly or by monthly. Twice fortnightly. And you're going to have most patients. But I wonder who's analysis. If you have insurance, you have license, you have all these things. How do you measure that? How do you quantify that? How do you pay that? When you're working 500, you get 250. Grocery. You can't buy grocery now. How do you pay your utility bills? You're working month, you can't pay half of the bills.
Well, the caller is, I know some people didn't hear that so good, but I guess the caller is speaking of the fact that government intends to pay bi-monthly. One of the challenges you could have with it has advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages that people are going to get money twice a month. You're going to get money a little more regular. One of the disadvantages in the short term and perhaps medium term is that it's going to cause some upset, some difficulties in adjusting. Because you may have to pay bills that you was paying at the end of the month and was automatically disconnected from your salary. Now, you have to leave money there when you go, or make arrangement with the bank, or the bank will take the money. You know, you could have some adjustment that cause complication and sometimes disadvantage to you. The shops that you've been trusting from by the month, they're going to stop trusting by the month. You're going to have to pay them bi-monthly. The houses that you've been renting by the month, or your apartment, they may well say, no, you have to pay me now. The higher purchase firms will now charge you. And sometimes it's easier to fire. Because how they pay you, so you work. Where you might have get away with 2 days, the employer might say, no, you can't do that. So there are some little teething problems. I think that is the best way I could put it. In the long term, you're going to get used to it. In the medium term and long term, you're going to get used to it because that would be the modus operandi. The government may end up with cash flow problem, and they might have strike from bi-monthly workers twice a month rather than once a month. In the 70s, workers used to get paid every last Friday, the last working Friday. At one period of time, they did not get paid the last working Friday. They strike, and from then on, the government say you want to get paid the last of the month. I believe one Christmas, some people didn't get paid because the government paid the last of the month. And since Christmas come on the 25th, some workers didn't get paid. Government retaliate. So the government have to make certain now that the cash flow is on target. So in the short term and medium term, you may have some complication that affects everybody. But in the long term, everybody will get used to the system. There are some people in the country that get paid every week. Some get paid every day. Some get paid every fortnight. So now, the whole system in Grenada will be changed to bi-monthly. And you notice the government say bi-monthly. and not every fortnight. Because if you're working and you're getting paid by the week, you might well get more money than if they're paying you by the month. Because it's 52 weeks in a month, in a year. But every month, 12 months. So some people getting paid by the week. Sometimes they never check their pay. They never check that. They might be making more money than if they were paid by the month. But the government don't go along that route. They recognize it. That is why they say bi-monthly. Maybe you get paid on the 15th and the 30th. So, as I say, in the short term and the medium term, there could be some complications and adjusting and psychological impact. But in the medium term and the long term, it will be continued to be the same thing. Yes, caller, welcome. Yeah. So one of the situations we have to understand, we have a two-party state in Grenada. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre,
yes, caller, welcome.
Yeah, well, this is a good thing that the government is trying to do, but the next thing I want them to do is move this 8 to 4 hours. Like,
I didn't hear that.
Longer hours, people can work different shifts. Shift system. People can work like from 8 to 4, and then so much people are unemployed, so they can make a difference. Like people coming to work from 4, so you have an economy that's going around non-stop economy. You understand what I mean? Hello.
Yes, caller. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I said we can make a pro-colonialism economy. We can make an economy like we work in the Caribbean from 8 to 4. We can change it from like whole life like America, non-stop economy, working 24 hours. You think that's a good plan too?
Well, the majority of government is the main employer in the country, and government a lot of times set the pace. But the government doesn't seem to want to change that system. Based upon what you're hearing, the government seems to prefer to work the one chief. Because one of the ministers was arguing he did not want people to come to work 6 o'clock and 5 o'clock to work by the road. He preferred them to work 8 to 4. Another government said, come early, get the job done, and go and see if you get something else to do. I guess that is what you're speaking about. But this government under the National Democratic Congress doesn't seem to want that. They want to go back to 8 to 4 work.
Yeah, but Mr. Pierre, we can have an economy that's going and spinning and making money as tourism. In the Caribbean, all the islands, most of them closed 4 o'clock, nothing to do. Tourists come in, they can't find nothing to do. Bank closed down. We need the economy to go around so more money can spin around. 4 o'clock, place closed down. That's not a way.
I'm in fully agreement with you. If I don't go and drink rum early, by the time I had your rum shop closed, by the time, yeah. Yes, caller, thank you. Yeah, the caller is making a good point to encourage a greater turnover in the country where people could work early and get another job done in the afternoon time, where business feel comfortable to open later. Now you have to encourage the buses to run later. But if government is advocating that workers who work on the road should work 8 to 4, yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome. Yeah, well, we lost that caller. So we have another couple of minutes where we can take calls. Somebody said 3 NDC tell me yesterday they're sorry they vote for the NDC. People, you will always hear people say that when things is not going good for them. People have to start to question the politicians more to know what you stand for, what is your philosophy, what is your belief, and what is your attitude against the people in the lower income group. It's a very important thing. Yes, caller, welcome.
You're going to be... you know, because if you come in the bus stop,
you go in and come. I don't know if it's the internet that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yes.
Go ahead.
Bus. If you get the bus terminal at 8 o'clock, when you come from work after 8 o'clock, you have to buy your own car, so private don't a higher taxi.
Yeah, that is one point again. If you want people to function late, you have to prepare to run the bus terminus late. So you see, government is a important. Government have to initiate these principles. Government have to prepare to run the bus terminus up to 12 or maybe 24 hours to encourage people to know that once the bus terminus is working, we can get a bus or we can comfortably stay there. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. That is one of the challenges.
Yes, they're thinking for themselves. They're thinking having for the nation.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And going on Facebook, I have an individual that writes regular on Facebook, always saying that I'm avoiding him. And all you need to do, Honesto Jose, is to pick up the telephone and call the program. Pick up the telephone and call the program. Because even when I respond to you, you don't answer. So pick up the telephone and call the program. All and sundry are welcome in my program. And by now, you know I listen to people. So that's the best I could advise you. Otherwise, you're just playing games. You don't want to answer. You know, you're running away from the truth. Because if you decide to engage me, I will stick the truth on you. We cannot continue in Grenada to be propagating lies and believing it. Particularly when the government policy is counterproductive to the people who needs the government the most. Governments have to understand that if a businessman, a well-educated person, they don't really need government to succeed. All you want is a judiciary system that is relatively independent. You want a free press, and you do not want government to be overburdening in the tax system. That's all you need. The government's supposed to help the marginalized, the people in the lower income group. This is the people that government needs to help. And this is the people that historically the National Democratic Congress has always been hostile towards and have economic policy that is disadvantaged towards them. And all we seek at this stage is some form of explanation. Dr. Bob would do well to do a research to find out why NDC is like that. We with you tomorrow again between 12 and 1 when we can discuss anything. And Honesto, pick up the telephone and call me tomorrow, man, and say what you want to say. Or ask me specific questions so I can answer you. Thank you very much.